Hailing frequencies open. Welcome back to Trek Retrek here on Geek the F Out. I am Captain Johnny. Why don't I started doing that? I don't know.
And I'm Ensign Kayla.
And we are here to talk about Star Trek.
Ow.
The original. Oh, was that a little loud? Sorry.
Star Trek. No, I hit myself.
You hit yourself too hard?
I forgot that that's how you get, like, your wind knocked out of you.
I don't know my own strength.
No.
It's a Heimlich maneuver. It's more of a gesture. Anyway.
Starting off strong.
Starting off strong with Eddie Izzard
As
references.
usual.
Indeed.
Also, happy Pride Month, y'all.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Kind of did a Pridey eye look. Kind of. Just colorful. I like colors.
Color is good. Yes. I was going to say something about monochrome. I don't know. Anyway, hi. We talk about Star Trek here. If this is your first time, you picked the wrong one.
No, I think next episode is probably the wrong episode to watch.
Yeah,
yeah.
We'll get there. That's going to be an interesting one to discuss.
We'll get there. Yeah, for sure.
But this episode is Season 2, Episode 20, Return to Tomorrow. TVGuide.com says. So first, remember, at the end of last episode, I read the IMDb one, and I'm going to read it again because I want you to compare the two. IMDb.com says the Enterprise is guided to a distant, long-dead world where survivors of an extremely ancient race, existing only as disembodied energy, and it says desiring the bodies of Kirk, Spock, and astrobiologist Anne Mulhall so that they may live again. I think it meant desire, like not desiring, just desire. Because desiring is a weird word to use there. However, TVGuide.com says an experimental transplant between formless telepathic creatures and members of the Enterprise crew works well until the creature in Spock's body elects to keep its new form.
It literally gives it away.
Yeah, but the IMDb.com summary makes it sound like they all were trying to.
Yeah, that's true. It does.
I think that
there weren't enough. There's 3.
Yeah, I think that TVGuide.com's works better. I don't know. Anyway, those are the summaries.
Also, if you haven't watched this before, our whole premise is Johnny has watched all of Star Trek, and up until we started doing this, I had watched pretty much no Star Trek except for the Chris Pine movies. So let's get into it. Return to Tomorrow. So yeah, as we just mentioned, the Enterprise is further beyond where Starfleet has explored before when they get a signal from what they thought was an old uninhabited planet, when suddenly a voice named Sargon, just like a disembodied voice, tells them that their questions will be answered soon and knows Kirk's name and says he has called them there and tells them he can read their minds and to take a standard orbit around the planet. And he says that if he perishes, then all of mankind will perish too, which I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, weird. But notable, Sulu is in this episode, which I don't. We've barely seen him this season because he was filming the Green Berets most of the season.
Yeah, and he's not really in this episode that much.
Yeah, no, I mean he's just there.
Yeah,
on the bridge.
He's there. He's doing his duties.
He's there, and Chekhov is not. What is he? A dog? He's doing his duty.
Yes.
I know. Never mind. Continue.
Duties. We're 12. So Kirk makes a message to Starfleet that he's just gonna risk it for the biscuit and, follow what Sargon says. And Spock says there's energy coming from deep within the surface, and Sargon says he can beam them there safely, and Spock sees a cavern. So he's like, okay, I guess, we can go there safely. And they're about to beam down without Spock when the ship power goes out and they realize that, they want Spock to go down too, which is interesting that they did that instead of Sargon just saying, no, Spock needs to come.
Right? Like, that's what I wrote. Why the cryptic, like, lights out message instead of just being like, no, bring him?
I don't know. Makes it more dramatic, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
And also to show the power that they have, maybe.
Yeah.
That, like, they can just, like, take over the ship. So, like, really, like, they're really powerless to fight back or
I was
not
honestly
follow their orders.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised it wasn't a case of them just, like, bloop, teleporting them themselves. I'm surprised that wasn't just something that happened. But
yeah,
maybe they didn't want to, that was overreaching. They didn't want to, like, bring them against their will.
Yeah.
Despite coercing Spock into it, rather than just plucking him without permission.
Maybe they are big about consent. They seem like they're pretty big about consent.
Sort of. Some of them.
In the ground. Okay, yeah, some of them, not all of them, as we find out.
Yeah, we'll see that.
So yeah, Kirk, Bones, and Spock talk in the transporter room when Dr. Ann Mulhall interrupts them. Cue romantic music, of course, of new lady coming on the screen, as we talked about previously. And so she's received an order to report there for duty, but, like, can't remember who it came from, and so I was like, okay, obviously Sargon.
Yeah.
And they're about
interesting. Interesting. Mulhall is played by Diana Muldaur, who is Dr. Pulaski in season 2 of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Ah, so she plays someone different.
She plays a completely different character, but she's in it.
Huh. Fun fact. So they're about to beam down with 2 security officers, aka red shirts, but right as they're beaming down, they end up beaming down without them, and of course they're a bit concerned, but Kirk's like, well, let's just see how it goes. There's nothing bad yet. And they're kind of in this, like, weird vault thing, and then a door opens up to the cavern that Spock was talking about, and there's a glowing ball that is apparently Sargon. Cue all of the ball jokes that we are probably going to make. And Spock takes a reading of it, saying that is pure energy, matter without form. And I'm like, it does have a form, but I get what he means, that, like, the energy inside of it doesn't. It was just funny because I'm like, it's a ball. So yeah, Sargon says it's possible that humans are their descendants because they pretty much, oh dang it, I just thought of something I could have done for spoilers without context. I could have done Ego from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's essentially what these people did. Damn. Except for they were kind of like Adam and Eve to a lot of places, so a little bit different. But
allegedly.
Similar concept. Yeah, allegedly. Yeah, and, speculates that Adam and Eve are their travelers, and they don't know for sure since records were lost in a cataclysm. And Kirk says they needed help. Sargon takes over Kirk's body and starts talking through him, which was, like, very dramatic, like Kirk acting when he went into his body. And he's like, oh my god, I can feel. Oh my god.
Like, I don't know why they're in pain. They always go.
He wasn't really in pain when he got into his body. It was more like when he was, like, feeling himself, literally.
Oh, yeah, when he was like...
Yeah. He's like, ooh, ah. Like the Grinch. He's like, ooh, ah. Yeah. That's it, I'm not going. But apparently they haven't had bodies in 500,000 years. And I was going to save this for lines and moments, but Sargon in Captain Kirk is like, your captain has an excellent body, Dr. McCoy.
Yeah.
He's like, good job maintaining it, because he knows it's both Kirk and the Doctor, which I'm like, yeah, that's true, because without Bones, he would, probably not be in that good of health.
Yeah.
So Bones and Mulhall say that his heart rate and temperature have increased, and if he stays like that, Kirk won't survive. And that's when Sargon tells them that there are 2 other entities that have survived, and they need bodies for their species to live on again. And I was like, crap. Okay, so that's why only certain people were able to go down. And so we find out the other 2 are Enoch.
From what I can see, it was Hannock, like
I don't think they pronounced the
Hannoc.
H.
Yeah, no, they
spelled
didn't
like
really.
that, but they didn't really pronounce the H. And Thalassa have still survived, and Thalassa is Sargon's wife. And he says they built the chamber to preserve their presence and the seed they planted on other planets. And apparently Sargon's been looking for people for a long time, and he says he just needs the bodies temporarily to build androids to hold their energy in. And he says their skills are beyond their abilities, so they can't just, tell like Starfleet people how to do it. And Sargon goes back into his ball. And Kirk remembers what happened, says that for an instant they were one, and he knows him now and doesn't fear him.
Yeah, this is all pretty sus.
Yeah, it's all pretty sus. And especially, like, I get that they become one and he doesn't fear him. And, like, to Kirk, it probably feels like he saw, like, this, like, vulnerable part of Sargon. And, instead of Sargon, wanting him to see or feel what he, like, when he got those feelings. So, I don't know. Yeah, very sus. So Sargon tells them that everyone on board must agree with it, and if they decide not to, they can go as freely as they came. Which I was like, I doubt that. So back on the Enterprise, they discuss it with Scotty, since he'll be the one working with them to make the android bodies, and says that they will have engines the size of walnuts, which intrigued Scotty. And there's some lines, but I'll save them for later because they're real good. And, like, pretty much is trying to convince Bones and Scotty that, like, they'll get all of these great advancements from them. And so, it's just going to be temporary, that they're going to use their bodies and then they'll go back. And, Bones is really against it. And even Mulhall is fascinated by it. And, disagrees with Bones because, for the sake of science, essentially, because Thalassa would take her body.
Yeah, this was interesting because something to note, like, Mulhall is a doctor and a scientist. She says she's an astrobiologist, but she's in a red operations uniform instead of a blue sciences uniform. So I'm not sure why.
Maybe blue wasn't her color.
Maybe. I don't know, because she wore blue in TNG as Pulaski, although their medical was more of a teal, like a bluish green, than the blue that Sciences wears in this. So I don't know.
Who knows?
They might not just have put as much thought into it as we do.
Yeah, probably not. But Bones points out that they happen to want the bodies of their captain and second in command, which he doesn't think is a coincidence. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good fucking point, Bones.
Yeah.
But also, I think for just plot sake, it had to have been prominent people. Like, it couldn't have just been 2 other random people from the ship. So
yeah,
I also kind of wish. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and for reasons that we see later, Spock had to be one of them.
Yeah. But I kind of wish Uhura and Sulu were involved in this meeting. I don't really know why they weren't. And maybe Chekhov is But yeah, I guess I don't know, because especially because Sargon's like everyone needs to okay it, and I took that as everyone like on the ship, not just the people in command.
No, I was thinking it was everybody directly involved because like
Oh, okay, yeah. Well,
Kirk,
yeah,
Spock,
but
and Mulhall would be the one that's changing bodies. The Doctor would have to, but I'd say Chapel too, because she was pretty heavily
yeah,
involved. But the Doctor can like,
but uh, fuck, what's the word? Answers to Bones. So
yeah,
if
yeah,
Bones is on board, and like obviously, yeah, Scotty too, with
yeah, because he had to
him
do
being the
work with the
engineer.
androids.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Anyways, so yeah. So yeah, as I said, Mulhall is okay to host Thalassa. She'll think it'll be good for experimentation, observations, etc. And Scotty is definitely on board. And, Kirk tells Bones he can stop all of this by saying no. And Bones is like, why? Like, why should we really do it? And, Kirk is like, this is the next big mission, just like Apollo. And then goes into this big old, very dramatic speech. And says Bones is right in the danger, but the possibility and potential for advancement are equally as great. And yeah, it's just like a very, very dramatic speech where, on one hand, he's telling Bones, like, you can do whatever you want, but like, you should really say okay because of X, Y, and Z. So yeah, Bones ultimately decides not to dissent, and they beam the balls on board in the sick bay, and they start the transference of Kirk, Spock, and Mahola. And Henoch, I'm just going to call him Henoch, and Spock tells Chapel she is a lovely female and a pleasant sight to wake up to after 500,000 years, which I was like, I wonder if Spock is in there still a little bit. Or like, if anything, I get that Spock is in the ball now, but I don't know. It just made me think like in the transference of them that maybe, I don't know, he gets like this different view and thinks like,
yeah.
oh yeah, she is beautiful. I don't know. Anyways, so then Thalassa in Mahala wakes up, and I will say her fake lashes were put on very shittily. Um, sometimes fake lashes just don't work on certain eye shapes, and it also depends on the fake lashes themselves. This is your tangent time for makeup for me. And yeah, I get it. And especially like back then, like it was hard. And sometimes like you put one on a little too far in and then it just doesn't want to stay attached. It's a whole thing. But either way, they were pretty shitty looking.
I didn't
and
even notice, but that's me.
Yeah, her and Sargon embrace and they examine each other and they say they are pleased in how each other look and kiss because, of course, Kirk has to kiss someone in some way, shape, or form. No kiss. No kiss. And while they're kissing, though, Henoch looks at them very interestingly and says he's surprised Vulcans never conquered their race. And this is when I was like, I don't trust Henoch.
Immediately don't trust him.
Immediately. And so Kirk and Mahala get faint while Spock's body is better at handling the higher metabolism. He says he can make a formula to stabilize, or a hypo to stabilize them. And Chapel helps him make it and realizes that Kirk's formula for Sargon looks different and that Kirk will die. And Spock says no one else will notice and she's injecting them, and Henoch makes her forget. So yeah, right away he's up to shady shit.
Yep.
And Henoch says Sargon will not let him keep that body, so she has to kill Kirk so it will kill Sargon. Dun, dun, dun. Dun. So that's the plan. Mm-hmm. Bones says construction of androids is underway and he is not concerned, but is still filled with foreboding, which, as he should be. Thalesa and Sargon are working when they have a tender moment after their hands accidentally touch, which Hinoc quickly interrupts and says they'll have bodies soon, but not have feeling. And Sargon says they can help people, though, and then they start to slump. He says the injection will reinvigorate them. Bones walks in on Chapel, who's confused while looking at the formulas. She says she wants to say something, but says it in a robotic way, and Bones is very suspicious of this. Once again, as he should be.
Yep.
And Thalesa now has her hair down and is looking at her reflection as Scotty walks in. He says that the android won't work when Hinoc walks in and says that it will if they will stop like distracting them, which I was like, take a drink every time Hinoc appears out of nowhere leaning on a doorway, because it is now the second time that it has happened in like almost 2 consecutive scenes. And so Hinoc tells Thalesa it's going to be 1,000-year prison and so on forever, saying Sargon has closed their minds to seeing it any other way, saying that they could keep these bodies, but, she says they're not theirs to keep. And he basically tries to convince her of how much they could do for mankind and says she's beginning to hate it. And I was like, bro is manipulative as fuck. And also I'm like, if they keep these bodies, like, they're not going to last very long. Like, are they just going to have to keep giving themselves a hypo to survive? Or like, I don't know. Just like doesn't seem like the best plan anyways.
Yeah, there is a conversation later between Sargon and Thalassa where they're like, the bodies will eventually, but you're gonna have to do this again in like, well, not Hinoc, because Vulcans live much longer than humans, but like Sargon and Thalassa would have to do this again in like 40, 50 years.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, they're going to have to keep doing it. Like, I don't know.
And the androids seem like a better... Because, like, if you can put yourself in the androids, like, maybe you can, like, work on... Because they talk about the androids... There's weird inconsistencies, because they talk about the androids not having touch and things like that. But, like, the androids from the episode... with Dr. Corby and like him and Andrea and Ruck, they could feel things. Like they were sex
and
bots.
they feel things. Yeah.
So
exactly.
Like,
well, that's what we think they really were.
Yeah.
No, exactly. That's what I was thinking too, especially when we see the android later on and it like, pretty much looks like a human and like the androids we've seen before. So
I mean, pretty much looks like a human is a stretch. That thing was nightmare fuel.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, it's getting there to be a human.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And like, I don't know, because obviously you're still in a robot, quote unquote. So how much can you really feel? But I feel like at that point in technology that, I don't know, because it's also the energy is being transferred. So it's not like I don't know. It's just like, I can't, my brain can't.
Like, it's got to be better than being stuck in a non-mobile ball for the last 500 million years until you can, like, maybe you can go and lab grow a bot. Like, the technology's out there. I'm surprised that they don't have it. Like, go grow a body in a lab and stuff your consciousness into it. Like,
yeah. I mean, there are test tube babies, right? So
clones and yeah.
So, anyways, Sargon radios McCoy. He's not doing so hot. Thalassa comes in, is concerned for him. Sargon says the formula is correct. And she says the host body will become accustomed to them, tries to touch him and convince him that feeling is better than being in the android bodies. than just having their minds intertwine, and they kiss, which take a drink for them kissing. And then Kirk passes out. Bones and Chapel come in and give Kirk the hypo, but it does nothing, and say he is dead, which of course we know, not dead. And Bones says Sargon was way too far away to transfer back to his receptacle, which I was like, how? Like, if they're really this just like energy that can do all of these things and read minds and control other things, I don't think it would matter how far away he was. But yeah, he says Kirk's conscious is still in there. Bones says they can keep Kirk's vital organs working for a few weeks, few months. And we have a new assistant nurse person there, which was cool to see. Another person of color, so nice to see that representation. And Thalassa and Enoch inspect the android, which is a man. He says it's hers and he can make it look like a woman once she's inside. And she says she can't live in it. So she goes to see Bones and says she can save Kirk, but she wants to keep the body. And Bones has already figured out that so does Enoch. And so she tries to make a deal that they can pretend they switch back if only her and Bones know about it, which honestly kind of smart. And so Thalassa starts to get upset and threatens Bones and kind of starts to torture him with her mind, but then realizes that she has made a bit of a mistake when suddenly Sargon speaks and says he is proud of her. So he's still around, and apparently he has even more power than Enoch realizes, and he has placed his consciousness in the vessel. And she says Sargon has a plan and they have much work to do. And Bones leaves the room when all of a sudden the ship is shaking and he's locked out. But then the doors open and Chapel walks by transfixed, and Bones goes back to see Kirk is up and back in his body, and so is Mulhall's. And which at this point I was like, or is it? Because, you know, what they had just discussed. And all the receptacles have been destroyed, and Bones freaks out because Spock's consciousness was in one of them. And Kirk says it was necessary. They need to make a hypo to kill Spock's body and the thing in it. And then we go to a scene on the bridge where Enoch is torturing Uhura and taking over with Chapel next to him when Kirk, Mulhall, and Bones come in, and he instantly tortures them as well. Bones is about to put the hypo in Spock when he stops Bones, and Chapel takes the hypo and still puts it in Spock. He tries to transfer out, but he can't, and Spock passes out. And then we have Sargon speaks from above and says he can't allow the sacrifice of one so close to you, and Spock wakes up and Chapel snaps out of her trance. So apparently Sargon made Bones think that he made a hypo that could kill 10 Vulcans when Enoch read his mind, so that when Enoch read his mind, he would think it's true, which I was like, that's really smart. But it, only knocked him unconscious for a second. And apparently Sargon put Spock's consciousness into Chapel, and they shared consciousness together, and she kind of gives Spock a smirk after that, and I was like, hee. They did the tango subconsciously. And Sargon says they can't exist in their world, and they will depart into oblivion, which Kirk, asks him if there's anything they can do to help. And he asks him if he and Thalassa could go back into their bodies for one last moment together. And they have one last moment, and they have one last kiss, which I was like, wouldn't they want one last bang? Like, come on.
Maybe after 500 million years of being stuck in
half a million years.
Half a million years of being stuck in a sphere, a kiss is equivalent to a bang.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? And they leave their bodies, and Kirk is awkwardly thanking her while others smirk and look at them. And that's the end of the episode. That's all, folks. So, go ahead.
It's interesting tidbit about the nurse that you were talking about, the new nurse, who also had speaking lines, which was cool. The actress is credited as Cindy Lou. It says she's only in 2 scenes, and only in one of them does she have a brief speaking role. This episode of Star Trek is her only known acting credit. Interesting.
Very interesting. That's too bad.
And she was never
Maybe she
heard
decided
from
not to do
again.
acting.
Yeah, maybe she decided it wasn't for her.
Yeah, that's fair. But my initial reaction when I first watched this episode is I really liked it. Especially because it was different than a lot of the others that we've watched. Like, still some similar concepts, but
yeah,
I liked it.
There were some things like when they first are figuring out that like these beings are pure energy, and Kirk's like, impossible. I'm like, you've seen this before.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
Twice.
Yeah.
More than twice, maybe.
More than that, I was gonna say.
Off the top of my head, I could think of the fucking brains from the Arena episode. It would not the episode
Which those
named
were
Arena.
also underground.
Yeah. And
That's funny. I just
Tree Lane
realized
and
that.
his parents, like
Yeah.
you've seen, and the lady from the being from Arena, like they've seen pure physical, non-physical beings more than once. Kirk, not
Yes.
impossible.
Yeah. It's kind of like they've forgotten what they've written before.
Well, and I think it sometimes is that they have scripts that were written by different people, but that's why you have script editors like Roddenberry, like just edit it and be like, we're familiar with that, not impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Like, I did like that Sargon was benevolent throughout, because you expected from the beginning that he was going to be, what's the word I want to use?
Bad.
That he was going to have ulterior motives, that he was going to be the one, like essentially like Henoch. And obviously we get that with him, but I figured it would be like all of them, but it was really just Henoch. Even like Thalassa for Thalassa,
Thalassa.
for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, she just like considers it, and obviously, yeah, she's being manipulated by Henoch. But ultimately, you know, we see at the end she decides not to. So, yeah, but it was cool to see Spock have more of a range of emotion and like be more humanoid than Vulcan.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see Nimoy be able to have like a different type of character to play, to show range that he doesn't necessarily get to show with Spock. Yeah.
And which, I mean, we've seen that a couple of times now, both in this and Strange New Worlds. And yeah, it's I mean, it's just cool in general to see any character kind of, you know, just like act differently than we normally see them, to especially just in terms of like this like piece of work, this TV show, to like see what these actors can do and the range that they have, especially playing a character that is very monotone and very serious all the time. Yeah, especially him just like crossing his arms and leaning against the wall, like that's something Spock would never do. So yeah, like I really liked that about it. But yeah, it was interesting. And I was also wondering, like, I guess Sargon always knew Henoch's plan.
Maybe.
Because I was like, if he's all knowing and can read minds, or maybe they can't read each other.
Maybe they can't read each other.
Yeah. But he knew, and like he still had this plan to, you know, destroy Henoch essentially. So I'm just very curious, like how, like if he knew all along, or if he realized that once they like got into their bodies. I don't know.
He might not have known until now he said that the formula was correct, but obviously it wasn't because Sargon Kirk died. Maybe once he transferred his consciousness into the Enterprise, he figured it out. And that's why he started to, like, wheels started turning to come up with the plan to get rid of Henoch.
Yeah. Maybe.
Or he might have already known before, like he said to Thalassa that the formula was correct, but he knew that it wasn't, and he was just trying to see, you know, what she knew or thought. Because then he's like, I'm glad you came to this decision mode of thinking on your own, when she's like, I can't do it in the sick bay. Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, and also back to what we were talking about before with only being able to use their bodies for so long. And yeah, I'm like, I don't know if like Henoch quite thought that through. And if, you know, he only really thought of it once they went into the bodies, or did he think of this before when they were still balls? You know?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Could be either. He seemed to be pretty set on it immediately, so he probably always had the idea that if they did this, that he was going to stay. Or try to stay in the body.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I liked the episode. It was a good one. High stakes, some comedy, cool plot idea.
Another good, like, this is kind of turned into favorite lines and moments as well. Kirk's speech overall was, like you said, it was very dramatic, but it was good. And the risk is our business line. You know, that's risk is our business. That's why we're here.
Risk it for the biscuit.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah. Let's just, we can fully go into lines and moments. So at the beginning of that convo, Scotty's like, "You're going to what? Are they all right in the head, doctor?" And Bones is like, "No comment."
Yeah.
And Kirk is like, "A simple transference, their minds and ours." And Bones is like, "Quite simple, happens every day."
Yeah.
Like, I love those moments. I thought that was really funny and very witty. Bones has the best wit and lines for sure.
Yeah. The Henoch being like, the part where Henoch is like, "I'm surprised that Vulcans never conquered your race." I thought was funny. Like, and it immediately turns him into like the villain. Like, you know, oh, don't trust this dude.
Yeah, like the fact that comes to mind, I think shows a lot about Henoch, whatever his name is.
Henoch.
Same thing. Yeah, that's all I have for specific lines.
I did like McCoy, "I will not peddle flesh. I'm a physician."
Oh, yes. That was a good one, too. Good line.
So that then should bring us to That's What They Said. I have to find... There it is. Who's going to go first?
You can go.
I don't remember.
I think I went last time.
So these are your That's What They Said for Return to Tomorrow, which doesn't make a lot of sense as an episode title, I feel like. I don't know. Kind of.
Yeah, but... like, because they're, you know, more advanced, so, like, tomorrow, like, future-wise. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Your probes have touched me, Mr. Spock.
Please come to us.
much harder than anything I've measured before.
Probing. Waiting. Probing.
They'll be inside us.
This body pleases me.
Yay!
Those are that's what they said.
This was rife for that's what they said with all the Freaky Friday body swapping.
Yeah, there were some other ones, but yeah, not. Those were definitely the best of them. For sure.
That will bring us to
fun facts.
Yes, memory trivia. Episode trivia from Memory Alpha. Here. So, writer John T. Dugan wrote the original script of this episode after he had read an article about highly sophisticated robots. In his original draft, Sargon and Thalassa continued their existence as spirits without bodies floating around the universe. However, Gene Roddenberry, who did an uncredited rewrite on the script, changed the ending to the aliens fading out into oblivion. This led to Dugan using his pen name, John Kingsbridge, in the episode's credits. Dugan, a devout Catholic, stated, "That line totally went against my philosophy and cosmology. I didn't want to be associated with it. The oblivion idea is Roddenberry's philosophy, not mine. That might be a small thing, but I have a reputation and a philosophy, and everybody who knows me knows what I stand for. I certainly don't stand for oblivion in the afterlife. When you write a script, you don't expect to have your worldview changed by a producer. The rest of Roddenberry's changes were all trivial. The big thing was the change in the episode's philosophy."
Okay.
Dugan's original outline was approved by NBC program manager Stan Robertson on May 15th, 1967, with the conditions that the highly cerebral portions of the story would be eliminated and the complex nature of the plot would be materially simplified.
Okay.
However, the episode and its writer earned a Writers Guild of America Award nomination in the category Best Written Dramatic Episode in 1968.
Huh.
And director Ralph Sineski nicknamed this episode the Huge Ping Pong Balls. Sineski also described this episode as about which the less said, the better. There's a lot of conflicting backstage
I was gonna say
opinions on this episode. It's weird. Like, at first I was like, when I was reading the trivia and picking what I was gonna say, I'm like, oh, and someone else using their pen name because they didn't like what Roddenberry had to say. And then I guess I can kind of see Dugan's point of view on it. If your beliefs are that big of a deal to you, you don't necessarily want to be credited on the script.
I get that, but also you're a fictional sci-fi writer,
right? Yeah.
I don't know. It goes very much into the realm of people that are like very against like any kind of like witchcraft stuff because they think it's like actually real. Like people that won't read Harry Potter because there's witchcraft because they think it's real because of their religion, and I'm like, it's not real.
It's like D&D and the Satanic Panic in the 80s. Like,
yes, exactly.
People are strange. And then the bit about NBC like wanting it essentially dumbed down, but then it I think we've determined that the awards happened before the filming. Like the I think we talked about this with like City on the Edge of Forever. The Writers Guild gave it an award, and like they gave this one an award, and then the director of the episode being like, nah, I don't want anything to do with it. Like, you directed the episode. That's one thing that, like, I think a lot of people, I don't know. I feel like like, obviously directors put the scenes together and like have a lot of say on how things come across, but I think a lot of people give directors way too much credit that should go to the writers. Like,
Yeah. Same with the actors. Like, they give the actors a lot of credit that should go to the writers.
Yeah, like, I don't know. There's just some things that I see people, oh, this director's so good at this character and this and that. And I'm like, that seems like it's something that would be like the director didn't do everything to the episode. He didn't write it. He didn't like have the camera in his hand. Some might, but you know what I mean? He didn't like apply the special effects. Like, he's just there to tell the actors how to act. Like,
and also just, you know, what's the word? Like, lining them up properly.
Yeah.
Where they should go, where they should walk, like how they should look, and how they should act exactly. So,
like, they're not rewriting scenes, I don't think. Like, maybe they can and do, but I don't think that they really are that much.
Comments or like input, but maybe it was different back then though.
Maybe. So that's it for episode trivia. That will bring us to spoilers without context. Since I went first for that's what they said, we will bring Ensign Kayla's spoilers without context up on the screen.
Yes. So I did a couple things that the balls reminded me of. The first of, I actually have one of these. It's
so
like this moonlight. And you can change like the color, how bright it is, all that stuff. I think they were going around like on Instagram ads for a while. I was like, oh, this is cool. I'll get it. And then it reminded me of the science project that most people have done, which is make all the planets out of styrofoam balls.
Yeah.
And then I did the androids from Westworld, because just used Westworld before for Stranger Things, so figured I'd keep the streak going.
Yeah.
And then I had to include the Cruciatus curse from Harry Potter, which is the torture curse, which was hard because I'm like, it's hard to like see that, but I think the best scene was to use the one with Moody from the fourth movie, because I think that was the first time we've seen it being used. Yeah, I think that was the first time we had seen it, so with the weird spider thing. So because, you know, they could torture with their minds. So yeah,
they make sense. I like the moonlight. I'm surprised I didn't think of it myself either, because
they look
like
so
I said,
much like that.
They do, and I have one too, for sure.
Yeah, that's so
very
funny.
Good. Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we will bring my spoilers without context up on the screen. So the first one is the like the Game Master screen from the board game Hero Quest, because that evil wizard is named Zargon. And when they first started saying Sargon's name, I heard Zargon, and sometimes it sounded throughout like they were switching between Sargon and Zargon. So I couldn't get it out of my head. So I had to use Zargon as one of the memes. I had to reuse Brain in a Jar, because, again, basically brains in jars. From Firefly, the curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal, because that's essentially Hanok. Like, from the word go, I'm like, oh, that dude's going to betray everybody. And he did.
Yes.
And then the robots from iRobot, because the android was very, like the Westworld android that you used the picture of, very nondescript at that point.
Yes,
so
we saw them. Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Indeed. Thank you. So before we rank the episode, Ensign Kayla, why don't you tell everybody what is going on and where to find us and all that jazz?
Yeah, if you want to follow us on social media, our handle is at GTFO channel. Literally just post on Instagram at this point. But if you want to email us anything, our email is channelgtfo@gmail.com. And right now, we also have Stranger Things going on. Our next live stream will be tomorrow night discussing season 3, episodes 5 and 6. And yeah, so tune in to that. That'll probably be at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. And pretty soon we'll be doing our Lost rewatch series, rewatch series, because I have seen it many times and this is Johnny's first time. Just like with Stranger Things, it's Johnny's first time. Many first times for you right now. Popping your cherry just right and left with all the shows. So yeah, make sure to tune all that and make sure to smack that like, smack that subscribe, smack that bell icon.
All right. Ensign Kayla, how do you rank Return to Tomorrow?
Like I said before, really liked this episode, and that was like my initial reaction after watching it, which doesn't happen often. Like, I'll still like a lot of the episodes, but I don't know, like, it wasn't perfect by any means, but like I was saying before, it was a new kind of concept. Yes, similar to some other ones that we've seen in the original series before, but still fairly new. And I felt like the flow of it was really good. And, you know, there was high stakes involved, like I mentioned. So I'm going to give it Commander, because I don't think it's like essential to see, but it's still like a good episode of Star Trek, and very like thought provoking, like we've talked about throughout this episode. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
I'm gonna give it Commander as well, for similar reasons. Like, as one, also because of it's interesting to see Diana Muldaur in this episode when she's in season 2 of Next Generation. As a different character,
and she was
again,
great
but
in this episode too.
Yeah, she plays a completely different character in Next Generation.
Oh, that's funny.
And then Kirk's speech, that "risk is our business" thing has kind of come up in Star Trek a couple of times throughout different series. I think it's an important. I don't know. It's kind of a. I don't want to say it's iconic because it doesn't come up that much, but it's like sub-iconic. Like, it's just sub-iconic. It's just under the surface.
Almost iconic.
Yeah. I like that it kind of did turn things on its head. Obviously, Henoch was predictable, but I kept expecting, like, at the very beginning, I expected all 3 of them to be malicious and, like, want to try to take the bodies for themselves completely. Yeah. But it was like, nice that... It wasn't
super predictable what was going to happen.
Yeah. It was nice to have that Sargon was benevolent throughout. Thalassa had moments of doubt, but then came around, and Henoch was just, like, on the bad path from the beginning.
Yeah.
So, I think that was interesting.
Despite the craziness with the writers and whatnot with this episode, like, it was good writing. So.
Yeah, and it's only like the thing said, the only thing that the writer had problem with was that at the end the 2 beings like faded into oblivion rather than going and living throughout the galaxy, which we saw with some of the other non-corporeal beings throughout. So so we give Return to Tomorrow a unanimous rank of Commander. Our next episode is Patterns of Force. This is an episode. Looking for a missing Federation cultural observer, Kirk, and this is IMDb.com says, by the way, looking for a missing Federation cultural observer, Kirk and Spock find themselves on a planet whose culture has been completely patterned after World War II Germany. They use the actual word that I think you're not allowed to, like, not supposed to say
we'll
on
have
YouTube.
To discuss that because it's going to be hard not to say that on the episode.
Oh, I already have an idea.
It's not that you're not allowed. Okay, cool. It's not that we're not allowed to say it. It's just I think YouTube doesn't push content that says it a lot or says it at all. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
But
We'll
World
discuss
War
that
II
next
Germany
episode, though.
works. World War II
Yes.
Germany works well as well. But
You get the idea.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, until then, peace and long life.
Live long and prosper.
Bye.